Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Batman issue 150 by Chip Zdarsky, Mike Hawthorne, Dennis Cowan and Jorge Jimenez. The first of the Absolute Power tie-ins begins here. Well, kind of, since that's kind of relegated to the backup. But before we get there, we're going to talk about the main storyline, which follows up on the thread that Chip left over at the end of Gotham War, which was one of Catwoman's thieves stumbling into Bruce's brownstone to rob it, only to discover he is Batman. This thief is a man named Teddy, and he decides to sell the secret, knowing that it will be worth a hell of a lot of money, and he's desperate for some, since right now work in Gotham for people like him is kind of all dried up. I'm really happy that we picked this thread up, as I assumed that it was something that was either going to be left on the cutting room floor, or Chip would just get to it eventually when he had the time, and I like that he has devoted an entire issue to this as well, much like how he did in the last issue with the clone Bruce. This gives enough time to properly flesh out the story and not just kind of wave it away in a backup like, oh yeah, that got dealt with, it's fine, we don't need to worry about that. Teddy is warned off trying to sell the information by a bartender at Flunky's, who tells him that he almost discovered Batman's identity a few years prior, and it ended with him and his friends scared out of their minds, making them believe that Batman really was a demon. Another man though cheers Teddy on to sell it, and he decides to go ahead with it, knowing that it will make them all rich. Zdarsky actually builds this guy's character out quite a fair bit, as we learn that Teddy has, or at least had, a family, as after a night partying he ends up back at his ex-wife's house, learning that their teenage son doesn't want anything to do with his father and has actually left home. You can absolutely see where these people are coming from as well, since while Teddy does seem like a good guy who was just dealt a bad hand at life, he's never gotten better at his life or anything. It's always just been kind of like a downward spiral for him, and he has never found that one thing that he could latch onto and help build himself back up. Eventually, Teddy goes to meet with Two-Face, who interestingly doesn't actually want to buy the information. Instead he wants, and what many other villains he thinks wants, is Teddy to shut up, since if Batman's identity is outed, their game would be up and their fun would be gone, as they would only have the Batman left, a monster demon who wouldn't be pulling any of his punches any longer since he's got nothing left to hide. We've seen stuff like this before, where a villain refuses to know Batman's identity or doesn't want to for fear that it will, ruin their relationship with the Caped Crusader, and there's a symbiotic relationship between Batman and his villains as they need each other to exist, and I like when writers do stuff like this. It's been done millions of times before this, but it's always really fun. Teddy then moves on to the Cobblepots, who put on a facade that they will actually pay him for the secret, but Teddy runs into an old friend who's actually working for them, and he warns Teddy that Oswald's kids are planning on killing him, since the only power Batman's secret identity has is being the only ones with that secret. Turns out Teddy's old friend Roger is actually part of a small gang of ex-thugs who stole some of Catwoman's gear during the Gotham War and went out on their own, and they want Teddy to join them, saving him from the Cobblepots. Again, this could have been used as some sort of thing of like, oh, Teddy's falling back in with the wrong crowd again, that sort of stuff. But Zdarsky uses the introduction of this small gang to reaffirm the thugs' view on Batman and what he is actually like, free from the warped views of the main villain's Batman fights. We get a cool story about how one of them was working for Mr. Freeze and Victor almost killed them, but thanks to Batman, they were saved from falling off of a bridge. The group decide they're going to hit a bank and then leave town, and when they do, Batman is ready and waiting, taking them all down and dropping Teddy off at his son's dorm room in Gotham University. Now this was a deliberate move on Batman's part, as Teddy learns that his son has actually turned his life around, taking a business course and actually being a good member of society. It's a fantastic sequence that is used again to make Teddy question his choices and who he is as a person. His son reveals that he even tried to be like his father and joined Scarecrow's gang, but Batman showed up and Scarecrow dosed Batman as well as his own men with fear toxin, which gave the boy a panic attack, but Batman found him and saved him, calming the boy down and even helping him get out of the life, moving him towards college. telling the boy to be better in life. Zdarsky's final pages for the story are really something great as Bruce meets with Teddy in person, since Teddy obviously knows who Bruce Wayne is, so he doesn't need to keep up the facade with him. And Teddy figures that with all the commotion around the secret that he knows that now everyone else knows that he knows, he needs to leave town, and Bruce ends up setting him up with a new life in Metropolis with a new identity. Bruce imparts some great wisdom to Teddy here, telling him that all they can really hope for in their kids is that they take after the best parts of them, and someone is never too old for a fresh start and to make a new life. Batman helping out the common man is always so damn satisfying, and we've seen it a lot of times through this issue and through Zdarsky's run, and it's great when writers remember that the thugs villains hire are just people, and Batman really shouldn't be violently fighting them. He should be fighting the main villain, but also trying to help these people that the villains have manipulated and warped to try and help them be better people, so they don't turn into main villains for him. This also gives Batman a chance to help a family, which has been a big part of Zdarsky's run on the book, bringing the Bat family back together and being part of one. And it's so nice to see him try and pass that on to someone else and let them have their own family and support around them. After rounding off his ongoing plots, Zdarsky transitions over to the Absolute Power portion of the book, which picks up after the events of Absolute Power issue 1 and finds Batman in Bloodhaven. Zdarsky builds the entire story around Bruce feeling responsible for this, as he sees Failsafe and by extension the Amazos as guns he created, guns like the one that killed his parents. And there's a great sequence at the start of this backup where it's revealed that Bruce bought the company that made the gun Joe Chill used to kill his parents with, and he shut the company down and moved all its employees over to Wayne Enterprises. However, he knows that didn't deal with the problem outright, as the men at the top still got paid and profited from the sell, and it leaves Bruce wondering, when does the cycle stop? Does he go after those men, and then what happens after that? And it kind of puts it all into his head and makes him feel responsible for what's going on, thanks to Failsafe being part of Waller's plan, and Failsafe being essentially Waller's gun and the gun he made. He figured that without the robot, Waller's plan wouldn't have come to full fruition. It's an interesting thought for Batman, and more so that he immediately tries to tell himself that it isn't his fault, and Zdarsky continues working on this great development of the character, since Bruce doesn't want to lose what he literally has just got back, with his family all coming back together into the new Pennyworth Manor, and even Catwoman rejoining the family as well. Batman heads to Titan's Tower, where he finds Cyborg locked in a digital battle with Waller's Brainiac Queen, and he's the only one keeping her at bay. As Victor finds out that Waller has access to a mother box, the Amazo called Paradise Lost arrives and attacks Batman. This is also the first time we've actually seen these Amazos properly, as in the Absolute Power issue 1 issue, they were used kind of sparingly in big sort of action sequences, but we never really got sort of one-on-one time with them. But here, the Wonder Woman themed Amazo actually talks to Batman and seemingly has their own personality and isn't just some mindless robot, as they try to goad Batman into a fight by explaining that they are all doing what they think that Batman should have done a long time ago, and something that he couldn't do. Batman knows he's outmatched, but instead uses the fight to try and figure some things out about the Amazo and trying to play detective a little bit, and he finds out that the voice and dialect they use are from the Victorian era, which is quite interesting. And I don't think Zdarsky would have put so much focus on it if that doesn't come back in some sort of way, in some sort of big reveal. The original plan for these Amazos, though, if you've been reading Batman, or if you haven't been reading Batman, I should say, is that Failsafe or Zur-En-Arrh was going to put the multiversal Zur-En-Arhs into each of these Amazos and give them all a body like how he had. But that never happened because he was defeated before that could actually happen. However, Time Commander actually went back in time to fix Failsafe after he was destroyed at the end of Batman issue 148. And maybe that's what's happened here with these Amazos as well, that they've now got Zurs in them. And it's even kind of backed up a little bit by what Failsafe says later on in the book, as he calls this Paradise Lost Amazo a Batman and tells her that she is a Batman and needs to act like it, which is a very interesting phrase of words. So maybe Failsafe's playing Waller a little bit here, and we've got all these Zurs running around now. Cyborg ends up getting involved in the fight to help Batman, but both heroes are no match for Paradise Lost, who picks Batman up and throws him through a wall, using the lasso of truth that she stole from Wonder Woman to tie up Cyborg and take him to Waller. Thanks to Failsafe demanding that Paradise Lost get back on mission, hinting that this wasn't a mission she was actually sent on, Batman manages to evade capture and is met by Flash, who is being used as a relay between all of the different heroes, forwarding messages from one to the other. I kind of like how they use him as well, because they're not actually just telling him the message and he's running to the next hero. He's actually in both places at the same time because he's moving so fast. So he's acting as sort of like a phone for these heroes and talking their message out in real time as, you know, Batman is saying it to Wonder Woman and Superman. I think that's really damn cool, and I like that idea that it's because they don't have communications anymore. They have to use the one person who still has their powers and who hasn't been targeted yet to take messages back and forth and actually help keep this resistance they have afloat. I don't think it'll last forever though. I'm pretty sure Flash is probably going to lose his powers at some point throughout this event, but it's really cool how they're using him. I think that's a really neat way to use his powers. Thanks to Flash's involvement, Batman is able to fill in the other heroes on Waller's procurement of a mother box, and it's something that Superman thinks that they should get a hold of so they could get off-world and get help, and Batman agrees, deciding to steal the mother box, but to do so he's going to need a thief like Catwoman. This is a pretty good setup to Batman's portion of the Absolute Power event. It went a little bit quick through everything. You know, we got to Cyborg and then there was a big fight and then it was over. It was very, very quick. It was all just done in a backup though, so it's understandable. You've only got about 8 or 9 pages to do that in. But what I really commend the story for doing is balancing out all of the stuff that Zdarsky has been writing with Failsafe in the ongoing, and, you know, Batman and his family and the way he feels about being Batman and everything, with elements of Absolute Power. He didn't just put his stories on the back burner like you see countless writers do time and time again when they get involved in a big event. He actually weaved it in to the Absolute Power storyline, which is really damn cool. And I'm looking forward to next issue being entirely devoted to the Absolute Power storyline, with Batman and Catwoman teaming up again, heading to Gamora to go and break into Amanda Waller's base. Really cool idea for a tie-in, and I'm looking forward to it. All in all, Batman issue 150 was a fantastic continuation of the lingering threads Zdarsky has had left over from his Zur-En-Arrh and Gotham War storylines, but also a great opening to his time in Absolute Power, setting up a story that is personal for Batman and one that builds on the ideas of family and helping the helpless that Chip has been telling for the past 20 odd issues. I am going to give this issue an 8 out of 10.